Welcome back, and this week we're going to do another topic discussion. This week's topic was kind of brought up through me surfing the internet and coming across people talking about anime that they would like to see more of, but it made me wonder also about anime we would maybe like to see less of. I'm here with my good friend Freddie. Have you got some anime chosen?
I have several of each.
Several of each.
Two.
How about we do one and one good, one bad each? I'll quickly explain how I got to this topic. I was surfing Facebook as the old man that I am. I still use that social media platform.
God.
And someone listed in an underrated anime group, Be the Beginning, a Netflix only show, was underrated. And I have seen this show. Have you seen it?
I have. A long time ago.
How's it sticking in your memory?
Oh boy, it didn't. It slid off my brain like, droplets on a very smooth surface.
Yeah, see, I have intriguing memories because I remember Be the Beginning watching the first like 1 or 2 episodes on a whim and being like, it's okay. And then like, I think it's episode 3 or 4 and I got really into like the police drama section rather than the fantastical hero bit. There's like 3 or 4 plot lines circling each other in that show, and I remember being keen to finish it once we got past like the pacing conversation we've had recently on another video, and I was very keen to see that show's conclusion, and I was like, okay, yeah, that was fine. Nice 12 episode short Netflix show, I believe it's still up there. And it wrapped up nicely. So my shock was it was kind of a sleeper hit for Netflix, I believe. It was quite popular at the time. They made a follow-up called Be the Succession. Were you aware of this show in any capacity?
No.
The vague blank look on your face said everything before
I was
the
unsure
words.
if you refer. I recall it having a second season, but then I'm like, is that what you're on about, or is that?
It does. That's the second season. The link is that it's called B, but it's called The Succession. Is the follow-on season.
Then I have watched it. I just took it to be the second season.
Okay, that's 6 episodes long.
Yeah.
I've watched those 6 episodes, and I could not tell you what happens at all in any capacity. I think there should have been less of that show. So, this became a topic between myself and Freddie a little bit in Discord. So, how about we start with shows that we would like a little bit less of, and you might have some caveats for this before we start. So what's the show, and then explain to me your situation with it.
So the show that made me think of it is Black Clover, which is a show that has over 100 episodes. I know I got to the end of where it was. They were taking a break. They were going to go back to it. I haven't gone back to it since. But the thing in it that I want less of, and this applies to a few other anime, I just want less filler in it. It has a good introduction, it has a good storyline, and reaches a part later on where there's like a big, it's not quite a climactic battle because it's not finishing, it's not the climax of the show, a very high point of it, and it's great, but damn, there's a lot of filler. And as well, beyond just there being a lot of filler, I'm sure there are a lot of shows that do this, and a lot of people might be able to point out even worse examples of it, but especially felt like between episode 30 and 70, most episodes would be in a structure that annoyed the balls off me. So it started off with the what happened last week, which would take, 5 minutes. Then it would have the introduction for the anime, the title screen with the song and dance. Another 5 minutes. Then you get the show for anywhere between 7 and 10 minutes, which is great. Then you have the ending screen with the song and dance. Then you have the what's going to happen next week for another 5 minutes or so, possibly eaten up into that time with, they had a little sort of chibi section at the end that was, forget the name of it now, but yeah, this like little chibi side thing that you had chibi versions of the characters talking to each other and explaining bits of the episode. And you had this for felt like forever. I remember it stopped at about episode 70-ish. My memory may be a bit fuzzy on that. But every single episode, you're watching a 30-minute episode and getting about 10 minutes of content. Oh boy, I could have done with a lot less of that.
Yeah, I've been trying to watch a lot more anime recently to feel like I've got a breadth of information, not necessarily a big depth, but to get a bigger feel for anime as it is now versus to how I was younger. and some of the situations you're explaining, I realised a little bit with the show I'll mention that I'm only watching 7 to 10 minutes of a show, really. Given that it says there's 22 minutes of show, and it's like, okay, there's 3 minutes of title songs, 3 minutes of close song, and then it's like, next week, and then at the beginning of the previous week's like, what we said was going to happen, the title music, oh, we're going to do it by saying that again, we've kind of finished. With the climactic fight, though, that you mentioned, I'm curious if it was a little bit Dragon Ball Z-esque, where there was lots of vocalized monologues and like a lot of talking, not necessarily doing.
Given, this is a while ago I watched it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that happened, surprisingly, not that often. I do recall it happening now and again, but I remember, so at the time, I was talking to one of my colleagues at the time. Yeah, he brought up, Dragon Ball and giving some of the examples of the filler episodes they have where they're just charging up for the entire episode, talking to each other. It's like, okay, sure. Like I said, there are worse examples of it. Just because there are worse things doesn't mean the thing that is happening is not bad.
Yeah, so it's not quite like the 30 minutes of Goku screaming like he's constipated, and then inside he's like, I know that he can do this, but he knows that I know that I know that he knows that I know that I can do this to counter that I know that he knows that I know that you know that he knows and I know.
Yeah. What's your blood pressure like, Goku?
Veins popping everywhere, not a turd in sight.
Yes. God, this is something that I learned about after the fact, and I will repeat it just in case there might be people who don't know this. So, where we are, and I'm sure in most countries, especially like America, we do reruns. As far as I'm aware, I was told, so, seasoned to taste, they don't do reruns. If you miss a show, you have missed it. So, this is why a lot of shows will do the what's happened previously.
Yeah.
Because if somebody has missed an episode, they want anyone who is jumping in to be able to catch up. So I'm aware why it's been done, and I'm not then faulting them for it, but it's still annoying.
Yeah, totally, I agree with that.
As you can tell by the fact I got past episode 100, I didn't dislike the show. I have fairly good memories of it. I just have this memory of basically saying, episode like 30 to about 70, just try and breeze through that.
This will be something I'm going to mention with my show, but I'll ask you, would you like it to receive what people call the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood treatment? For those who may not be aware, Full Metal Alchemist originally had a manga and an OVA series which start off together and then separate paths, never to meet again. I have fond memories of the OVA and buying it off a website called play.com. I think I picked up the first 5 DVDs for £15 because they were just trying to get rid of them. And I remember watching Full Metal Alchemist, and I literally took a chance on it. I was like, if it's bad, I've not spent a lot of money. And I watched the first 2 episodes, and I was like, I watched all 5 DVDs in that evening. I watched for 6 hours. And then realised I was having to get up for work the next day. But later on, we got Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which was truer to the source material. Now, you were saying, whether this was just before we came on or in your little description a moment ago, that Black Clover was being made into a show at the same time as it was being wrote as a manga.
Yeah.
Do you think you would like to see that happen?
Possibly. I don't think the episodes they have of, story progression. I think if you were to take it into a DVD, you could just chop bits out of it. It would probably benefit from the Brotherhood treatment. Yes. I wouldn't say you need to, but not missing important parts, because there may have been important bits in an episode that was ultimately very dull.
Yeah.
So you can't cut the episode, but then you end up, if you were to just have that bit of that episode and not have the start and the end of whatever filler content there is, it would feel very disjointed. So yeah, probably just a smooth remake would be beneficial.
A little bit like Evangelion, where they do a couple of recap episodes, but the second and third one actually have plot developing sections in it, like Ray carrying the spear and so on. Like if they got rid of 50% of that and then put that Ray bit somewhere else, you could do that. You'd like them to do that with Black Clover?
A little bit, yeah. I think it would work.
The fact that you feel like it could be saved. I don't think either of us have picked shows that are, I'd say, bad. I feel like, going back to the previous topic, they may be badly paced, and they both share the situation of being Black Clover. I don't remember the background of, but I definitely know for the show that I picked, Full Metal Alchemist was very popular in the West, and it had just followed on after, was it after the big three? Around the time of the big three of Naruto, One Piece and Bleach. And
I love the fact that I've not watched any of the big three, and I don't plan on it.
I've watched 66%. I have no intention of ever watching One Piece. Never. You can come for me, you can sell it to me as much as you want. I just won't do it.
I was going to say, there is a finite amount of time we have, and we're already doing a fair amount of anime.
We are. And I think both the shows that we have chosen fall into this weird gap at that time period where studios are like, we've got to get into the West, like, look how big these things are over there, and we need to get that next big thing. Or whether it came from our side of the world where it's like, oh my god, they're eating up this stuff from Japan, keep buying everything in and hope fatigue never ever sets in. Because a little bit like the people talk about the music industry fatigue, where it's like, oh, you know, music's getting homogenous and this, that, and the other. Or isekai is being rammed down every throat, whether you want it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
cool.
Black Clover, do you think it's beyond redemption? Or like
far from it.
No. Do you think it could be carried on as it is? Or would you like...
I believe that's what the plan is. So, I do recall, at about episode 70-something, when I remember it, you know, there's a point where, as I said, it stopped being so much filler and so little, actual progress per episode. I think it's about episode 70. They get rid of the what happened last time, they get rid of a lot of filler, or they do it in chunks.
Okay.
So it's like they will do a chunk of progress followed by 2 or 3 episodes of filler, followed by another chunk of progress, instead of it being, you know, flip-flopping so much. A lot of the episodes, really, really good. It's absolutely redeemable, and I think this is one of the things they've done, because when they got to, I have no idea, beyond episode 100, they then took a break, which is where I got to, and they stopped, because they're letting the author write more before they carry on. So that they're making, you know, something that is a preferable choice for me as a watcher. I'm not a manga reader, so
that's your take.
Yeah, it's a good show, and I would recommend it if you're wanting, you know, if you've got the time to watch a show that goes on for over 100 episodes. Not everyone does. Sometimes people like, you know, a nice, short, sweet.
I am a fan of a short series that knows when to stop.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why, you know, one-shot mangas are quite popular as well, because there you go, you got the start, the middle, and the end. You know, there's no more. You don't need to worry about more. Sometimes you do want more, but hey ho.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better to leave the audience wanting rather than to overstay your welcome. I think I'll move on to mine, which may cause some controversy, because I am still watching this show. But
I'm watching it and I want less of it. Oh,
yes.
boy.
So Freddie recommended this show, and I tried to, on TikTok, do an episode a day review before the house that I'm in started falling down and needed repairs. So there's like, the time I do the podcast here is like the only quiet time we've got. So I'm like, let's film now. Oh, you recommended Soul Eater, and I enjoyed the first few episodes. The 4th episode was like the introduction of all the characters to the school. Then we got like the zombie bit. But I felt, as I was watching it, I don't know if you told me this, but Ben over on TikTok definitely did at Manga Flows. He explained to me, like Black Clover, the manga and the show were like running alongside each other. And a lot of people tell me that Soul Eater is like one of their favourite animes. And I wonder if it's because it's like a gateway anime. It definitely feels like a show that would have been, I think, was it on Toonami or something like that, like a Cartoon Networks thing. It's not particularly grim or violent or super bloody, so you'd be able to put it on or edit it for like a younger audience to get in. Maybe not necessarily so much Macca's dad, but
again, it could be a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Coming over from Japan.
I feel like there's filler episodes, and when I get them, they frustrate me because it feels like the animation studio are like, oh, what's this character's trope or shtick? And like, just lean into it real hard, like to the point where you're pushing the audience face against the window out of the aeroplane so they can feel the turbulence in their face. Maybe it's just me, perhaps, but I can feel there's filler. But when I watch episodes that progress the plot, you really can feel like the connection and the motion and the movement and the vibe. And I'm watching Fire Force simultaneously, which seemingly has been, let's let him write, the same author, for people who don't know, as Soul Eater. And Fire Force feels like, oh, we let him do these story beats, and then we started animating, and as we started animating, it gave him enough time to write the additional sections for another season and progress that way, because I believe Fire Force is a finished product before it's a finished anime, whereas Soul Eater, like you were saying about Black Clover, it's like, we need an episode this week, guys, what can we do? And like Soul Eater does fall into, I've noticed, like, once you cut out the theme songs and stuff, it's 22 minutes an episode, but there's only really like 12 minutes of episode. Which is why I'm like, maybe this did get taken a Cartoon Network-y channel or a Toonami and like split up and pushed out there, especially like America. I imagine that got very much so like an 8 p.m. sort of like teenage time slot.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
It feels like that way. I'm yet to finish it. I've about 2 episodes away from the end of season 1 because I wasn't doing the episode reviews, like a little bit of my momentum broke down. Then I got really into Fire Force. I'm halfway through season 2 on Fire Force. I feel like I'll easily finish it before season 3 supposedly comes out in summer. As I suggested, I would like it to get a Full Metal Alchemist treatment, so it's more succinct, like more fluid as a show, cut out the goofy filler episodes, go towards the manga. Like, I've had people telling me already, it's like, oh, the show's great, don't worry about the ending, but the show's great. And I'm like,
yeah, like, as like, if you were to take the show as a whole and give the whole show, I wouldn't say a score out of 10, but to dumb it down a little bit further, if you were to say like, oh, you've got to do a score out of 5, so it's more, you've got to overlook more things. Yeah, it's probably a 4 out of 5 for me.
Yeah. Would you say perhaps like Soul Eater sounds to me how Evangelion was maybe for you? At one point you were like, I am loving this show, I'm really enjoying it, and then when we finished it we were like, meh, it's there.
Yeah, a combination of, respectively, the show that we recommended to the other, we had watched a while ago, so I'm sure there was a bit of nostalgia from both sides.
Yeah, totally.
And then also it's like, I'm guessing you remember the high bits more than like you remember filler. Yeah. Because kind of like, I remember a fair bit of like Soul Eater, but I don't remember much filler. Like, it was only, so funnily enough, both you and someone else at the place we work were watching it at the same time, and it was like, oh, when you were in the classroom episode, the filler where it's they're doing the test and you've got Death, the kid he's got to write everything perfectly, and I was like, I completely forgot about the giraffe. But then as soon as it was mentioned, I was like, I remember that giraffe. But I'd completely forgotten about it. Like, when I was recommending it, I wasn't like, look out for the giraffe.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know what? I remember Excalibur. I love
Excalibur. That's part of the reason I think I'm staying, because I know he appears more. The episode where you see Excalibur's past is great. His little like greaser hairdo, his the fact that he's a cutesy character and he has a one night stand and it shows him post coitus. If you know what Excalibur looks like, he's got a long nose. I'll put a screenshot up for those who watch on YouTube. And he has a post-sex cigarette.
Yep.
And it's like, what? And then when you see how he's smoking it, it's even more ridiculous.
Yep.
Because it's not where he drinks his tea.
Yeah. He must snort his tea.
Yeah, he's sniffing it out the end of what... I use the term nose.
Proboscis.
The front of his face.
Yeah.
Proboscis is a great word. But yeah, Soul Eater, if they were to give it the Full Metal Alchemist treatment, I would love that. I think it'd be a lot better. I think a lot of the anime fans would like the manga ending, although from what a couple of people have said, the manga ending's not particularly satisfying either. But I don't know why.
Bad would you like? I would like the less flavour of bad, please.
If anyone wants to send me a bunch of Soul Eater manga from all the beginning, maybe, perhaps, just send me a message or an email address with free manga and naps in the back of the van, whatever. Yeah.
I'm sure people will buy the ending ones first. I can't read this because I don't know.
Well, before we move on, I do know someone explained to me, so Soul Eater follows the manga up to volume 11, I want to say. And then he says there's 25 volumes. So at this point, it ends. But all the way over here is the actual ending and the rest of the plot. And that's my opinion. I think Soul Eater, I think both of us, Black Clover, Soul Eater, give it the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood treatment. There's clearly fan bases for both of them.
Yeah.
People have it. I mean, maybe people want to tell us what they'd like to get the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood treatment. Go ahead. Go nuts. Tell us.
Yeah, something I would like to point out. We both said we enjoy, the respective shows. And we both said we would like less of it, not because we dislike the show, but for similar reasons.
Back to the pacing episodes.
Yeah, it's something we actually didn't discuss. But anyways, I'm wanting less bits on the end of the episode, less recap, introduction, ending, what's happening next time, special bit at the end. I want just, more episode, which, yes, brings down the episode list number.
But what about those banger theme songs that so many anime have? What's going to happen to them?
I will not discuss that. And you do want that, but you're wanting less filler episodes. Whereas I'd like less filler episode, but it's I guess we both said similar things, but just priorities are different.
We've done what we would like seeing less of.
Yes.
But what would we like to see more of? How about you start us off, Fred? What would you like more of?
I would like more for just one show to recommend more of, and we'll never get more of it. Knights of Sidonia from Netflix.
Okay. There's a Netflix theme here for shows that either don't get finished or half done.
Netflix has the tendency of dropping shows even when they're quite popular. Now, this is a somewhat sort of slightly different case. It does have that case as well, but it wasn't just Netflix that dropped it. The author, who also did Blame, which is a film, so you don't need to worry about missing anything from that, he dropped the actual Knights of Sidonia manga as well. The story ends, not from what I read, not too far further than the show, and it just stops. And I really liked that show. I enjoyed it. Had a lot of interesting ideas and executions of them.
Okay.
It did a few things differently than some other shows. One of the things I quite enjoyed the concept of, whether or not it could have been used as a fan service thing, probably was, but they introduce a third gender to humanity who can, their gender is to say trans, they can change gender. Okay. The person they fall in love with, they become the opposite gender to them. They are completely gender fluid in a biological sense.
I have an interesting question to that conceptually. Is it biological gender based or sexual preference would be? So if you were attracted to a gay guy, would you, and you were both male, then you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm still male? Or would the genome or whatever it is go, oh, they're biological binary male, so I become biological binary female for production purposes?
It was a production purpose, yeah. So it is an artificially created gender, but I think don't remember enough if if you can be born as this third gender now that it's been introduced.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you just become the compatible gender for that person for creation's sake.
So the three genders, male, female, sex toy, are the trifactor.
Yeah, a Tenga.
I'm aware.
Tenga gender.
I'm doing a bit. Quickly point that out.
It also, so as a sort of quick overview of the show, it's not a monster of the week episode, but there is a fight most episodes where it's like, you have a bit like Evangelion, you have pilots who get into a mech suit who go out and fight monsters, and every week the monster gets a little bit tougher.
It's not like, tidy your room, you can't make me. I said tidy your room! Different kind of fight aspects, okay?
Yeah. There is they get into their mech and they do a heckin' shooter at a monster.
A heckin' mech fight.
Yeah, get back and they have the bit in the ship, because story-based, Earth's gone. One of the things, again, it did quite differently, love interest, she's dead, she dies. And then she's sort of back, and then she dies again.
What a cheerful story you tell to me, Freddie. I can't wait to reenact my Netflix membership for this. I'm not going.
The thing is, it's one of the ones I would struggle to recommend it because it ends on a cliffhanger, and that cliffhanger is never going to be resolved.
Oh dear.
It's not going to be a case of, oh well, if you liked the show, go and read the manga. No, the manga will just end as well, and
disappointment all around.
When I did a little bit of research into it, because again, I was wanting to carry on, so I was like, where can I carry this on? Well, okay, let's follow the author. Let's see, where his works. So from memory, he did like an architecture. He's basically like an architect, or he did his degree in architecture, and this shows an awful lot in Blame. He does very interesting designs, and Blame in particular.
It's a huge building, isn't it? Blame, like a Tower of Babel kind of thing.
I suppose similar. Blame is set in a city that is ever expanding. It's meant to have robots at the edge that constantly keep on building it. Yeah, it's like there's nobody living there kind of thing. Okay. And it's these robots they've just gone rampant, continuing to build things. And a lot of it through the manga, from what I've seen of some of the panels, it's just the character you're following is just walking through it. There's not a lot of dialogue for most of it.
Given Do you reckon this was a foreshadowing tale of AI?
Unfortunately, unlike you, I don't sort of read into things quite like that. I'm just there for the story that's being presented. I'm not using it as like allegorical or anything. Again, Knights of Sidonia does have this as well. There's some very, very interesting and very pretty architecture, and I think there's a few bits of the story that are unique and kind of thought-provoking. There won't ever be more of it. I would have liked there to be more.
Can I ask a quick question about Knights of Sidonia? Does he fall through a chute and break his leg in some rice? Or am I thinking of something else? Because I may have watched an episode or two of this.
That sounds plausible. So again, beginning of the show, you're following a character who, he lives on the ship, but he lives in like an area of the ship that's like, I wouldn't say it's not like the slum part of the ship. It's like I hope you understand what I mean when I say this. He's like a gutter rat.
Like the cleaning guy.
He lives off the grid, but not by choice. It's like he's kind of been like a babe who was sort of taken by somebody else and raised in this off the grid area. Yeah. So I do recall later on, at like near the end of the second series, he does, I think it's one of the things that it shows is like he's being helped an awful lot by one of these gender fluid characters. As they interact with him more, they're becoming more female. But it's the whole thing of, like, as I said, the love interest is killed, and then this gender fluid character is then becoming like the person who's becoming closest to the main character, and they are becoming a she. An interesting way of doing things, but so it's quite plausible that yes, that did happen.
That really fetches up the notion of people having a type and falling for like the same people over and over again, potentially.
I wouldn't be, given I haven't watched it long. It's because of
recently,
I haven't watched it recently because I wouldn't want to rewatch it and goes, yeah, I know there's going to be a cliffhanger and I know I'm going to end there and there's nothing. It just kind of leaves that bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I get you.
I have fond memories of watching it. I'm probably never going to rewatch it because there's it's a dead end.
It sounds a little bit like another not the show stylization, but I had a similar experience with a Netflix show called Cannon Busters, which I kind of enjoyed to start with. and then it just finishes on a cliffhanger, and the guy also, like your author, is an infamous, like, I'm bored now. So Cannon Busters is based off a comic that has like 3 episodes, 3 issues, and then he's like, Netflix, he was like, maybe I do it as a TV show, and he pitched it, and Netflix at the time were trying to get more like animation manga style shows, and they took it on, and then he was like, I'm bored of that, next thing, whatever that is. If anyone knows, feel free to tell me.
It's like, I guess, like, you know, a lot of the shows have to have like a hook or something that gets people in, but then I don't know if the author's like...
With you saying him being about an architect, it makes me wonder, does he need to do it? Is he just one of those people whose career is being good enough at everything to be kind of successful, and then is like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to move on to this or go back to that? So it's like, oh, I've got a day job, I am actually an architect earning a ridiculous money designing stuff. There could be a lot of facets there that we could look into.
It's something that I could see very much that happening, but also then being like, well, it's a labour of love, I'm going to, you know, carry on. It's one of the things where if I would, while I do have a creative outlet, it's I'm not going to then spend even more time trying to learn drawing as well. But if I were to do that, I'm not sure if I would try to get a lot of like the ideas and stories I would have for different shows and be like, okay, what can I cut from each of them and smush it into one thing and then just go for it. Because at least but at the same time, I just like, or do you go, do I have, you know, fingers in many pies, or do you put all your eggs in one basket?
A lot of food either way.
It is a lot of food, but yeah, it's...
Maybe it's a cake and eat it analogy as well.
Yeah, I guess it depends on, you know, combination of skill and interest, but...
I have neither the skill, but I definitely have the interest for many hobbies.
I have the interest. I have not the time. Moving on. Sorry, you have one.
I do have a show. My show is my first real anime in Guyver. The Guyver has 200 chapters. Also, like Knights of Sidonia, it's not finished and technically is still running. The author of Guyver's 69, 70 years old last time I checked. So I don't know how productive he's going to be in this. But there was a lot of concepts and characters and things in Guyver that we don't meet. So it had a series made in 1988, and then later on it got like cleaned up, tidied up, nicer art and more storyline in 2005. And what I would like to see is, I know there's more characters, so if you've never seen Guyver before, Guyver follows Sho Fukumachi, who's a high school student who comes across this piece of alien technology that also turns out to be ancient technology from a group of aliens who inhabited Earth and used it as like a science lab / playground to find like the best hunter. They developed man and they were like, oh, this biped's pretty powerful, we like this. And they were called the Zoolords. And they are ridiculously powerful, and they're kind of like Power Ranger villainy looking guys. But they can change and shift their form, or they can upgrade them, or they can give people like genetic alteration to become Zoinoids, which are like the monster of the weak character. Or some people are powerful enough to carry what's called a Zoolord crystal. And we get these concepts explained to us, and we see two Zoolords, but there's a whole council of 13 of them, and we never, you know, it's clear that at some point they gotta fight, right?
Mm.
You know, you've got to fight all the villains, you've got to fight all the bosses, got to complete all the quests. What we get in the original is there's a group of Zoinoids called Hyper Zoinoid Team 5, who are like the elite special force monsters, and they get like all the upgrades. So like when they're testing new Zoinoids out, any of them that show interesting promise or develop traits, they copy the genes and give them to the Zoids, the Hyper Team 5, to improve them. But sometimes there's people who, when they're going the transformation to be a Zoinoid, sort of fall halfway in between being a Zoinoid and potentially being more. So they have like shape-shifting abilities to swap between the forms, and they're known as the missing numbers. So we get like the missing numbers story, and it ends there in 1988. I'm also aware there's like a movie where there's a female Guyver. It also got 2 spawn-off live-action movies, which they're okay. I know they've got cult following. Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker's in one of them. David Hayter, aka Solid Snake, in the Dark Hero is Sean. What's the Americanization of Sean Fukamachi? Sean something. Sean Baker, that's it. And they do that. There's live action movies. And what I just want to see more of the story. I want to see the Zone Lords, and I want to understand more of like the suggested history that they give us, because there's a whole like, when I was a teenager and it was like, oh, the creation story isn't like, oh, gods and this, it's actually people came and made us, which was the first time that kind of notion had been put into my teeny tiny brain. And I liked it. I was unaware at the time of things like the ancient alien conspiracy and all this. I want more of that world. I want more of the stories. There is a Dragon Ball Z element that I'd like to get rid of. There's literally like a friend character, and all he does is yell show's name or family name just at random, or like weirdly enough when these monsters are sent out to kill the guy, where it's like, you've gotta stop, you're gonna kill him, and they're like, I know, that's my job, I'm the monster this week, I'm meant to kill the hero, and he's like, show. Or later on it just becomes Fukamachi, as if it's his favourite sports player doing something cool. Maybe blowing stuff up with a chest cannon is a sport for some people in Japan. I don't know. I want more Guyver. I want more of that world. I want to see more of the progress. I also have like read online some of the manga to like see some of that story, to like the head Zoe Lord, like the head of the council, like a character called Arkenfell, is ridiculously powered. There's also like a bit where they show you Guyver Zero, which is when they develop the Guyver unit and they give it to this caveman who's like their most powerful soldier so far, and they discover, so Guyver means berserk or out of control as its other subcat title on products, and they give him the Guyver unit and then realise they can no longer telepathically control him. How we explain how the Guyver unit history works. I want to see the things. Please show me the things. Make the TV show. Get up to the last chapter, which is clearly where it ends. And it kind of ends, from my understanding, in a way where it's like the main baddie kind of goes, well, I'm going to take my toys and regroup. It's not a satisfactory ending, but if that's as far as the story goes, it's more complete than Berserk as an ending. Show me that world. Right, if you've made it this far, maybe you have some suggestions, dear viewer / listener, wherever you come across us, and tell us about it. Give us your opinion, give us some takes. Maybe Freddie will want to revisit this topic another time.
I think we could probably do a tangential topic. I have an idea for one I will discuss.
Well, we'll think about that, and we'll hopefully see you next time. Thank you for your time, Freddie.
Thank you for having me here.
Always welcome. We'll see you again.
Bye-bye.